Welcome to another video. In today's tutorial, we will focus on the network analysis tool, more precisely on how to define one-way streets. Here, you will learn how to define prohibitions and also the direction of that prohibition. We will use simple tools such as field calculator and calculate geometry to define fields in attribute tables, and also use small lines of code in Python that will allow us to manipulate our input data. After this video, you will easily understand how one-way roads are defined in ArcGIS Pro, so when you are doing network analysis, your data is as reliable as possible. So, to start this video, let's start by opening ArcGIS Pro. Let's click right here on Map. Let's give a name to this project. I will give YouTube_tutorial. And I will save this project to a folder that I already created in my desktop. In this case, it's called YouTube tutorial. Right here, I will select this one and click on OK. Let's click on OK again and wait a second. The study area for this video will be on Portugal, in this case a city called Espinho. I will zoom in our study area right here. I chose this location because the streets are organized in an orthogonal style, and since this is in Portugal, we will choose the official coordinate system of Portugal. In this case, it's called ETRS 89. So let's search for Portugal right here, national grid, Europe, and choose this one. Click on apply and then OK, like this. And the first step is done. Now let's go ahead and click on add data. We have on our desktop the folder where we saved our project just now. Let's click here on YouTube tutorial. We have our geodatabase right here. I'm not going to show you how I created this geodatabase, but a video explaining all the processes behind creating a geodatabase is appearing here in the corner. Let's double click to open. Let's also open our feature dataset called transportation. And as you can see, we have three elements here that we will import into our project. We then have our stops, our element that will show us which roads have only one direction, and the road network. So let's select them all and click OK to import them to our project. The first thing we are going to do is change the symbology of our elements. So let's start with the one-way streets feature class. Let's click right here on symbology and change the symbol, for example, to this one. Let's click here to show the labels. As you can see, we have a field in our table that tells us which direction is prohibited, right here. For example, this one is prohibited from south to north, this one from north to south, and we have all of them with a direction label, okay? Let's now open the attribute table of the feature locations. Here we have point number 1 on our route and also the last point on our route, and as well as the intermediate stops. Let's change the symbology of this one too. Let's add all values, remove this one. Let's change the finish. Let's try, for example, this one. For the start, I will choose the same one, but I will change the color for green, for example. And for the stops, let's increase the size and change to blue, like this. So we will have our beginning and our finish. And in fact, I'm going to change the color at the end so we don't get confused with the one-way points. Okay. Let's now just open the attribute table of the feature class streets. And as you can see, we only have the length and no other data, and therefore we will need to add some fields to define which streets have only one direction. Let's click on Add Field and give the field a name. In this case, I will give the name of dir travel for direction travel and choose text as the data type. Text, and for now click Save. To begin the process of naming the direction of each road, let's start by selecting all the roads on which you can travel in both directions. To do this, we click on Select in the top tab, and with the Shift button pressed, we begin to select all these roads, like this. Let's select all the streets that we can travel on both directions. This one, like this. Let's check if no, 2 streets are missing. Let's find them. This one and the last one right here. Okay. We then have 6 roads that were not selected. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's correct. Now that we have all two-way roads selected, let's click on the field and choose the field calculator option right here. And let's say that dir_travel is equal to b, which means both ways. Let's click on OK. And two-way roads are now represented by the letter B. Let's remove the selection by clicking in Clear. Let's do a sort ascending, and here we have our 6 one-way roads that we will now define which way is possible to drive and which way is prohibited. I believe this topic is a little more complex. When we draw a line in ArcGIS, we always start at the first vertex, which is colored green. When we close the line, we also end up at the vertex, but with the color red. In this example, we will call the green vertex from and the red vertex to, because we draw the line from the green vertex to the red vertex. So, when the direction of a one-way street begins in the green square, we assign the letter F, and when the direction of a one-way street begins in the red square, we assign the letter T. Okay, let's see this example. The direction of the prohibition is from south to north. There is from the green square to the red square. So in this particular case, we will give the letter T, because the direction of the street is from the red vertex to the green vertex. Let's analyze this street now. The scanning was also done from south to north, but contrary to the previous one, the direction is the opposite, so which is why we give the letter F in this case. Let's continue this process. This one also has a prohibited direction from north to south, and the green vertex is to the south, so we will also give the letter F in this case. So let's move to the next one. This street is prohibited from south and the green vertex is at north, so this will have the letter F. This is exactly the same as the previous one, so we will give the letter F2. And in the last one, since the prohibition is from south to north and the digitalization was done from south to north too, we give the letter T. Let's click on Save and go to the next step. What we are going to do now is give the maximum speed limits for each street. So to do that, let's create a field, which I will name ft_base speed, or the speed from the green vertex to the red vertex, and the data type will be short. And let's create another field, but now for the other direction, to, from. Let's start defining maximum speed limits in both directions for each of the straight segments. Since it's a city area, I'm just going to set two speeds, 30 kilometers per hour and 50 kilometers per hour. And I'm going to distribute these values randomly, since this is just a learning exercise. I will select these streets. I will select also calculate field in this field and set the value to 50 kilometers per hour. Okay, let's select, let's choose a few more. And now, for example, let's set the value to 30. So let's select maybe those ones, calculate field right here, and change the value to 30 and click OK. There we go. Now let's check what's missing. We will change this manually. This one 30, 50, 50 in this one 52, 50, 30, and let's select these ones, calculate field, and change to 30. I noticed a mistake I made here. Since we are setting speed limits in the from to directions, obviously we don't need to put values in to from streets as I have here. So to fix this, I will select these lines, and in the calculator field I will write none, so the values return to null. Let's now fill in the speed limits anyway, but in the other direction. That is, everything that has the letter F keeps the value null, and now the value on streets with the letter T, we will define speed limits. I'm going to put 30 in this one, and in this one I can put 50, for example. I will now select this randomly and give the limit as 50, and for the rest as 30 kilometers per hour. Change this to 30, click OK, and that's it. For these ones, since these directions are prohibited, we don't have to give values. Okay. The next step is to create 3 more fields to calculate how long each street takes to travel, taking into account speed limits. So let's click on save. Let's add 1 more field and name it length. We already have one, but let's create it again to define the values we want to use. The data type will be double, and let's click save again. To calculate the length is super easy. Just right click right here, go to calculate geometry. The property of length is length. The length unit will be meters, and the coordinate system current map, so ETRS 89. Let's click OK. And as we can see, the values are the same for the shape underscore length too. Let's clear and add 2 more fields. Let's now create 2 more fields to understand how long each street, taking into account the speed limit, takes to travel. So this one will be called ft underscore minutes, and the data type will be float right here, and this one to from minutes, and the data type will be double float 2. Let's click save, close this one. Since the speed limit is in kilometers per hour, the length is in meters, and we want to know the time in minutes, we will have to use a calculation formula. So to do this, you select the field, go to calculate field, and you put a parenthesis, click right here on length and divide by 1000, another parenthesis, and you will divide the speed, so ft in this case, and multiply by 60. And let's click OK. And for the TF minutes, we do the same, but instead of ft base speed, we will select the TF underscore base speed, and let's click OK. Here it is. We have the time in minutes for each street. For example, since in both directions the speed is 30, the minutes will be the same, and on the bottom we have different values for the two directions. Now let's click on Save. And let's create a network dataset and edit that network dataset. Let's go to View, Catalog pane, and let's add a folder connection. So right click, add folder connection, and let's search for the folder we created right at the beginning of the tutorial. So this one, let's select and click OK. Let's click on these arrows until we get to our data. Let's right click on our network dataset, go to New, and choose Network Dataset. Let's name it streets underscore ND, and the feature classes that we will intend to use in our network analysis. So we want the streets. Let's select streets. One-way streets is not necessary, as this feature class was merely informative. And we will also select locations. Elevation model we don't need to change in this case, and now let's click on Run. So the network dataset is created. And now let's move on to editing some elements of our network dataset to actually tell the software which streets are only in one direction and which direction. Very important, let's remove the network dataset from the project because otherwise we won't be able to edit. So let's remove, and now let's right click on the network dataset present in the catalog pane and select properties. Now let's go to travel attributes, and in the travel modes tab right here, we will define how we are going to travel on our network. So to do that, you go to menu, click on new, and let's give the name. For example, driving a car. We can give a description. I'll give driving a car as well. And the type driving, and impedance, let's select minutes, but it's not here. Okay, so first we have to create a cost. So to do this, we click on costs right here. We have already the length predefined, so let's go to the menu right here and choose the new option. So the name will be minutes. Units will be minutes as well, and now we only need to change the evaluators. In this particular case, we will change streets along to field script, so the along field refers to FT. Let's double click here until the green symbol appears, and we will add an expression. So we just have to say that the result is the FT underscore minutes field, so the one that we created earlier in this video. So let's click OK. For streets against, we will select field script as well and choose the TF underscore minutes, And don't forget to put an exclamation mark on the beginning and on the ending of the sentence. That's it, the cost is already done, and now we can select time right here. So change the impedance from length to minutes. Distance cost is length. And that's it. To finish this part, let's define our prohibitions. So let's click on restrictions, go to menu, new, and let's name it one way, and usage type, let it be prohibited. And now we will only have to change our evaluators. To define prohibitions, let's change the type of streets along to field script, right here. And now let's double click on the right side until the green icon appears. It's important that the language is Python, otherwise the code will not be recognized. To the result, let's type SetOneway, open, right, like this, open parenthesis, exclamation mark, and now we need to call dir_travel from our field, exclamation mark, and close parenthesis. In the code block, let's define a Python function. So to do this, just type def SetOneway and pass value as an argument, colon, and let's click if value and value.upper, open and close parenthesis, in, open and close parenthesis, t, return true. Let's type a colon right here. If not, return false. Let's click on OK. In streets against, let's change the type to field script as well. Double click right here, click on the icon. Result, let's type the same thing, SetOneway dir_travel, like this with the exclamation marks. And the code block will be a little bit different. So let's define the function def SetOneway, pass value as an argument, colon, if value and value.upper, in, and in this case it's not t but f, like this, colon, and now let's say restricted equals true, and then return restricted, like this. I will leave these two blocks of code posted in the first comment of this video. Now let's click OK to finish. To finish, we just have to go back to travel modes and put a check mark on our restriction like this. Let's click OK. Go to Streets and D, Properties, click on Build, and now click Run. As you can see, we have the network dataset in our project. If we select it and click on this icon, we can observe the characteristics of each street, such as the directions or prohibitions that we have defined. To finish this video, we will create a route analysis, right-clicking on the network dataset, and now choose Route. Like this. Let's wait a second. Let's select route and import our stops. So to do this, you go to route layer, import stops, and you can drag and drop right here and click OK. As you can see, we have our 8 locations, so number 1 to start and 8 to finish. Right here we can change the mode in the sequence, so we want to preserve the first and the last stop. And here we want to travel as fast as we can, so we choose minutes. And now let's click Run. And as you can see, we have our route analysis. We can easily see that right at the beginning, our route takes a detour to avoid the street in the prohibited direction, and that between stops 5 and 6, that direction can be traveled. Okay, now just to compare, let's deselect the restrictions and see what happens. So let's go to Route Properties, Travel Mode, Restrictions, and deselect this one. Let's click on Run. And as we can see, the green line now passes through prohibited streets, which shows us that the prohibitions we defined are actually working correctly. Thank you for watching. If you like this type of content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment what you want to learn next.